Good morning everyone and welcome to today's WorkSafe Tasmania Month webinar, You Can Quit, Cut Down, Manage Your Smoking. I'm Stephanie from WorkSafe Tasmania and also the coordinator of WorkSafe Tasmania Month. I'll also be the moderator for this morning's webinar as well. Before we do get started, I'd appreciate you taking a few moments to read the following slide about information delivered during WorkSafe Month seminars. I'd now like to go over a few items so you know how you can participate in this morning's webinar. So we've taken a screenshot of an example of the attendee interface. You should see something that looks like this on your computer screen in the upper right corner. You're likely listening in using your speaker's default system. However, if you prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You'll have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect the questions and address any questions that do come through at the end of this morning's presentation. We are recording webinars during WorkSafe Month as well, and will progressively be making them available on the WorkSafe Tasmania website after WorkSafe Month finishes on the 30th of October. Lastly, if you before you do leave today's webinar, we would appreciate you completing a short survey on this morning's presentation and providing us with your comments and your feedback as well. I would now like to introduce you to this morning's presenter, Stavroula Zandes from Health and Wellbeing Training Consultant, to run this morning's webinar, You Can Quit, Cut Down, Manage Your Smoking. Good morning, Stav.
Good morning, Stephanie, and thank you for the invitation to present today. So welcome everyone to today's webinar, where I'll provide you with lots of tips and ideas to help you manage your smoking, quit smoking or cut down. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I have a background in psychology and counselling, and I worked for Quit Victoria, the Cancer Council of Victoria, for 20 years in tobacco control. Now, I was working in a range of roles, and initially I started as a Quitline telephone counsellor, and then I moved on to presenting seminars and groups in the workplace and in the community setting, and then more recently I started training health professionals and community professionals to support their work when they're supporting their patients to stop smoking. I now run my own education and training business, which focuses on a range of health and wellbeing topics, including quitting smoking. So what will I be covering today? It's not going down. Oh, here we go. Okay, so in this morning's presentation, I'll be covering addiction and looking at understanding your own smoking behaviour, including triggers. I'll be looking at the importance of decision making and planning. I'll give you lots of tips and strategies to help you, as well as a number of handouts for you to use for the future. And then we'll finish off by looking at the quitting methods, the quitting medications available, as well as electronic cigarettes. And then I'll finish on the support services that are available to support you following the webinar. But before we get started, I'd like to learn a little bit more about you. So I've got a couple of questions, a couple of polls that I'll ask Stephanie to please pull up. And this first question looks at whether you've tried to quit, cut down in the past, and there are a number of options there for you, including option E. If you are a non-smoker, please click on the relevant button that suits your current experience. So I'll give you a moment to fill out that poll. It's not happening.
Let's see, I'm just checking. That poll should have come up. Sorry, the poll hasn't come up. So just if people could just look at those questions and maybe respond A, B, C, D or E to those questions. just by typing their answers into the questions pane.
I'm not sure if anything has come up, Stephanie.
Yep, so we'll just run through a few of the responses that have come through. So E has been one of the responses, C, D, E, D, D again.
Great, great. Okay, so we have quite a good range there, and there's quite a few of you who have actually quit for an extended period of time, and that's a great success story. That's something for you to think about in terms of moving forward and in terms of trying to make another quit attempt. Let's go to the next question, which is reflecting on how you feel today and whether you would like to quit. So again, just type in your answers. Oh, here we go.
So hopefully the poll, I think the poll's come up this time.
The polls come up, so click on one of those answers that is relevant for you, and if you are a non-smoker, that's great. It's great that you've come along. You might be wishing to gather information to support colleagues or loved ones, which I think is great. So welcome to everyone, not just smokers but non-smokers as well.
So we'll just give it a few more minutes before we close the poll off. And I'll close the poll and share the results.
Fantastic. So again, we have split. 33% of you do feel ready to quit right now. 33% are not sure, and there's quite a few there who are non-smokers. So it's great that even those of you who aren't sure have come along to gather some information, and this is what this webinar is all about, just providing you with tips and ideas to help you make the decision that is right for you. For those of you who are ready, that's very exciting, and I hope that following this webinar you think about quitting sooner than later. So let's keep moving by looking at the first component, where I wish to discuss addiction and understanding smoking behaviour. Yep, okay. So for many smokers, often there are a number of patterns and routines that make up their daily smoking habits. And I want you to reflect on why you think people smoke, or whether you have any particular patterns or routines or times of day. And just quickly, if you could please just type in some of those patterns in the question box, in the chat box. So what role does smoking play for you? Are you familiar of any patterns, any routines? Are there any particular times of day where you must have a cigarette? You die without it? How are we going? Stephanie, any responses there?
Yes, a few responses coming through now. Let me just run through them. So after work.
Great, yep.
Morning coffee, work breaks, after meals. After meals
Yes.
with coffee.
Yep.
I smoke around 5 per day, morning and mainly after work. My knock-off time when I relax after work.
Yep, great. Excellent. And they are very, very common patterns. Most smokers smoke for a variety of reasons, which you've already identified, often as a form of relaxation. Just keep seeming to not being able to move to the next page.
If you just right-click in and click the next button, that should unlock it.
Well, nothing seems to be happening, sorry. There's no arrow and... Okay, maybe I'll ask you, Stephanie, sorry.
That's fine.
Okay, so people smoke for a variety of reasons, as you've highlighted, often after work, often with meals, often with coffee, often as a form of relaxation, but there have also been a number of other reasons that people smoke. Some people smoke to help them manage their weight, and others smoke as a form of emotional support to help them manage their moods. Sometimes they feel good, sometimes they don't feel so good. Others will smoke to fill in time, so just to get, because they're bored, and others do smoke as a form of bonding. For most smokers, however, nicotine addiction is the reason why they continue to smoke. Yes, there are a lot of reasons surrounding smoking behaviour, but let's first start off with nicotine addiction. Next slide, please. So it's important that when you're making any type of quit attempt or thinking about cutting down your smoking, that you acknowledge that the addiction is made up of three components: the physiological dependency to nicotine, but there are also a number of emotional triggers and also habitual triggers. So I'll take you through these three parts in further detail. Next slide, please. So we know that the tobacco plant naturally contains the chemical nicotine. It's actually the tobacco plant's natural protection from being eaten by an insect. So nicotine is an insect repellent in the tobacco plant, so it plays a very vital role. Now, in cigarettes, it also creates all sorts of issues for the smoker. It is the reason that it drives the addiction in smokers, and it is often the reason why people cannot quit smoking. I want you to think about when you smoke and that first puff. How quickly do you think nicotine reaches the brain? Do you think it might reach the brain within a few minutes, possibly half an hour, possibly seconds? If you've answered in seconds, then you are definitely right. We know that once nicotine enters the bloodstream, it reaches the brain within 7 to 19 seconds. So it's a very, very clever drug, very efficient drug, and it triggers a number of chemical reactions. So nicotine is considered as a biphasic drug. It's both a stimulant and a relaxant. So it helps stimulate you, it helps you feel more alert, it helps you concentrate in meetings or first thing in the morning. But nicotine also acts as a form of relaxation. So if you do feel that you need to relax or feel less stress, then nicotine will also play this important role. However, these effects do decrease within minutes. Now, many smokers will often say to me that these feelings, these effects do last a lot longer than minutes. And this is very much because of the emotional connections that you have to cigarettes, but also these habitual triggers. So it's important to remember that nicotine does work on the brain, stimulates the brain receptors, and does change the brain chemistry. It does make us feel good and euphoric, but it also helps us to become more alert and to concentrate. But let's come back to your smoking, if we can please go to the next slide. And I want you to think about whether you feel that you are nicotine dependent. I want you to answer these three questions. Do you smoke within 30 minutes of waking? Do you smoke 10 or more cigarettes a day? And in the past, when you've tried to quit, have you experienced withdrawal symptoms? Now, if you've answered yes to one of those questions, then you are considered nicotine dependent. And if you have answered yes, I would encourage you to use the quitting medications. They do help people who are nicotine dependent and are very effective in reducing cravings and withdrawal. I will discuss the medications later on in the webinar, so hang on, please continue to listen to the session. So if we keep moving, we know that withdrawal is is a strong marker of nicotine dependency and is often the reason why people return to smoking. They often experience very, very strong symptoms, and these are often the first signs that you are physiologically addicted. This often then becomes a trigger and you revert back to your smoking. I think it's important that when you are giving up smoking that you think about withdrawal and you think about these symptoms and you empower yourself and are prepared to tackle these symptoms. So what are they? What are some common withdrawal symptoms? Did you want to just type some of your answers in the question box, in the chat box? If you've quit in the past, what have you experienced in terms of withdrawal? What has led you back to smoking if withdrawal was the reason? Now, not every smoker will experience withdrawal and its severity. Some people experience them much more intensely and others not so. And as each smoker is individual, some of you may experience some of the symptoms and some of you may not. So I'm going to put up a list in a moment, but I'd like to hear from you first. What are some of the withdrawal symptoms that you've experienced? How do we go, Stephanie?
So some symptoms: headaches, tightness
Yes.
in the chest,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
coughing, anxiety, depression.
Yes. Yes. Great. All of these are withdrawal symptoms, and if we can just put up the list there, Stephanie, please. Most smokers will experience these symptoms, and as you've highlighted, absolutely, you will have headaches. You will experience coughing, and some people will often say, well, I even cough up black phlegm. This is a good sign, and we'll talk about this in a moment. For some people, they have changes in their digestion or in their appetite, or they feel quite lightheaded. Some people can't sleep, others struggle to get out of bed, others have flu-like symptoms, so the symptoms can vary. And as you've already highlighted, many smokers also do experience anxiety or a sense of sadness, depression, loss, a very normal part of the quitting process. And I'll talk about mood changes as I take you through the session. What I do want you to remember, however, is that these symptoms are a good sign that your body is recovering. And if we just go to the information there, we know that the symptoms will peak within the first few days, but they will pass within 2 to 4 weeks. So I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that as you're experiencing withdrawal, that this is your body recovering, that this is your body adjusting to living life without nicotine. I want you to hang in there. I know it is difficult, especially in those first few days, and we know that most smokers will actually relapse in those first few days of quitting. If you can get through those first few days, then you are on your way. If you are experiencing very strong cravings, very strong withdrawal, if you are a very heavy smoker, I will strongly be encouraging that you use the medications to help you. They will alleviate the symptoms of cravings and withdrawal. And again, I'll touch on medications in a moment. I want you to always remember that it is a good sign that your body is healing. Now, we often hear people say, why don't you just quit? You know, many people believe that smoking is just a habit. Maybe you've even said that to yourself, oh, it's just a habit. I'll quit when I want to. I'll quit when I, turn 30 or 50, or when I get married, or when I have my first child. And there's always an if. I'll quit when this happens. But what's really important to think about is that it is a very powerful addiction, and that often it is more than just a habit. There are very much entrenched emotional triggers and also habitual triggers. So let's have a look at habitual triggers. If we go to the next slide, please. We know that there are certain behaviours and certain behavioural connections that are linked with cigarettes. And over time, these behaviours become so routine, so automatic, that you often do it or smoke without thinking. And a lot of you have already mentioned this in the earlier question, where you smoke with your coffee, you smoke after a meal, you possibly smoke when you're drinking. Can you think of any other habits that are relevant for you? What are your habitual triggers? What do you do daily as part of routine, as part of your smoking, that you would identify as a habit, as a trigger? So I'll give you a few moments to type in your answers. How are we going, Stephanie?
Okay. After meals has come through with coffee.
Definitely, yep. After meals and coffees are often the most prominent habitual triggers. There are a few more, however, and if I just put those up on the slide there, often people when they're drinking, when they're socialising, when they're driving to or from work, or just driving, when the phone rings. There are many, many smokers who will light up when the phone rings as a way to take a break from work. And for some communities, it is very much part of their culture. It is very much part of sharing a water pipe, for example, or within the Indigenous community, a form of sharing and bonding. So there are a range of habitual triggers, and it's important to identify the triggers that you may need to think about in terms of what strategies you will put in place to help you cope with these automatic, routine part of behaviour. And often we do it so automatic that it's like when you're driving home from work or home from shopping and you arrive in your driveway and you think, what happened? how did I get here? I wasn't even paying attention to the road. It's so routine, it's so automatic, you can do it with your eyes closed. So habitual triggers are a very important component of the three aspects of addiction. Let's have a look at the next aspect of addiction, which are emotional triggers, where certain feelings and moods are linked in with cigarettes. And you've already highlighted some of these, so we'll go straight to the answers here. You've talked about anxiety, you've talked about stress, but for some people it's not only managing some of these negative emotions like anger, but you might also be smoking because you feel elated. You might feel very happy that your football team won the grand final. So it's a range of emotions that can often lead smokers to smoke, including loneliness, including nervousness, including frustration. So we know that smoking, there are three aspects to the addiction. There's the physiological dependency, there are the habitual triggers, and then there are the emotional triggers. So what can you do? How can you tackle these triggers? Well, an important part of the planning process is to start to keep a record of your cravings. For many smokers, they often think, well, yeah, I smoked during the day, or I smoked 10, I think I smoked 15, but I'm not really 100% sure when I smoke. And a good way to identify your triggers is to start recording when you smoke. So this is available as a handout for you to download. You can wrap it around your cigarette pack, you can put it on your desk at work or in your car or at home, and start to record every time you have a cigarette. And I've got some examples there for you. So 10 a.m. coffee break at work, what were you thinking? Well, I've been working hard, I deserve this break. How are you feeling? Very relaxed. And then I ask you to rate this craving out of 10, where 10 is I must have this cigarette. And you've rated, or this person has rated 7. And then on the far right column, I ask you to think about what else you could do instead of smoking. If you were to give advice to a friend who was quitting, what advice would you give them? And then I've got some tips and ideas there for you to help you. So record your smoking throughout the day. You may wish to record it over a weekend because your smoking may change over the weekend. Often smokers find that they smoke a lot more over the weekend. Over the page, this is a double-sided handout. I have a list of feelings which will help you identify what you might be experiencing in that moment. Okay, so we've looked at addiction and understanding smoking behaviour. Let's now look at the importance of decision making and planning. The most important part is saying I want to quit smoking more than I want to continue smoking. For most smokers, they will often go through a series of behaviour change, and this is the stages of change that was developed by two psychologists, Prochaska and DiClemente, in the 80s, who worked with a number of people who had a range of addictions. And as you can see, depending on where you're at, you might be, a lot of you actually are thinking about quitting. You're in this contemplation phase. Some of you are unsure, so you are possibly in between, I'm not thinking about it and I am thinking about it, and that's also a very normal part of the quitting process. But once you start to make some changes and start planning, you actually go for it, you decide to quit, and the goal is to remain forever a non-smoker. And if you can, well done to you. But for most smokers, what we do know from the research is that they will relapse, and they will relapse time and time again. For most smokers, it can take many, many attempts before they do give up smoking. So if I've got a couple of questions up there on the slide. If we just click onto that, Stephanie, I want you to think about where you're at in terms of your own smoking behaviour, but I also want you to think about how many times have you tried to quit smoking. So I want you to quickly just add a number in the chat box so we can see just what the numbers are like there for you. How many times have you tried to quit smoking? How are we going, Stephanie? Do we have some responses?
So we've got 5 times, 2 times, a couple of times. Thinking of quitting and have tried twice previously.
Great, Great. And that's often what we find. We find when we're speaking with smokers, and having spoken to so many smokers on the Quitline as a counsellor and working with them one-on-one and in groups, that is often what we find, that people have tried a couple of times, some people have tried 5 to 10 times, and others have tried up to 20 times. No matter how many times you've tried, I want you to always remember that the more times you try, the more likely you are to be successful. Because every time you try, you learn something new about your smoking behaviour. You're able to reflect on what happened. Was it socialising? Is that what led me back to my smoking? Was it stress? Was it boredom at work? What actually happened to lead me back to smoking? So don't ever feel that you are a failure. I want you to take failure out of the equation, because this is about making the decision that is right for you. Now, we also know that most smokers experience some inner conflict between wanting to smoke and wanting to quit. And often this conflict can be quite painful. So they're often saying, I must quit, it's affecting my health, it's expensive. On the flip side, you might be saying, but I love it. It helps me relax, I enjoy it, it helps me socialize. And so this devil and angel conversation can be quite confronting and can often lead you into this state of anger, or this state of resistance, or this state of, don't talk to me, I'm not interested in giving up smoking, I don't want to hear about it. This is a normal part of the quitting process, and I want you to acknowledge that you might experience this conversation in your head every day, or every Monday when you decide to give up smoking, or over the weekend when you're reflecting about how much you wish to quit so you can be a good role model for your children. So acknowledging this inner conflict is very important. It's an important part of the quitting process, and what we need to do is actually help you make a firmer decision that quitting is the right decision for you. So an important part of this decision-making process is to encourage you to think about your reasons for quitting and your reasons for smoking. So if we just put up all the information, Stephanie, I can take you through some of these reasons that I've collated over the years working with smokers. So for many smokers, they have many reasons to smoke. They love it. They enjoy it. It helps them relax. It helps them concentrate. It helps them manage their weight. Lots of reasons, and your reasons may be the same or they may be different. Then when we ask smokers, well, what are your reasons to quit? Because your reasons have to be so important to drive and motivate this behaviour change. And for many smokers, the top two answers are health. I want to stop smoking for my health, and I want to save some money. Others might also add, I want to give up for my kids, or I want to breathe better, or I want clean teeth. Now, when we're looking at health, that is a very generic word. And if you're quitting because of your health, I want you to actually drill that down a little further. So if we just click on those extra points, So health, what does health mean for you? Does the health mean increasing your fitness? Does health mean stop coughing? And if we click again, Stephanie, and we click again on expenses, it's also important that you highlight, why is it that money is an option for you in terms of a motivator? Is it because you wish to go on a trip overseas? Is it because you just want to enjoy going out to dinner on a more regular basis, but you need to sort of put your money aside to paying the bills and paying the rent? So it's really important to think about your reasons for stopping, as this will help motivate you to make the change, to help motivate you put some strategies in place. Now, often smokers say, well, I don't have the willpower to stop smoking. And what I say to smokers is, what you need is skill power and want power. Do you want to stop smoking? And have you put some skills in place? We know that want power and skill power equal to success. There are many good reasons to quit smoking. I'm not going to take you through the health effects of smoking, but I do want to acknowledge how quickly the body does recover. And these posters are available free of charge from the Quitline or from the Australian Commonwealth's website, which is on the screen there. And it just highlights that you do recover within a few days. Your sense of taste and smell improves. Nicotine is out of your system within 12 hours, and within 5 days all of the nicotine byproducts. So if you can quit for a day, you're on your way. Within a month, you have better blood flow to your hands and feet and so on. So that's okay, we'll keep moving. You will also save lots of money. Think about how much money you're spending on cigarettes, and cigarette prices are going up. They continue to go up. Depending on where you buy your pack of cigarettes, they can range between $18 to $22 a pack. But for this exercise of I've noted it down as $21 a pack, you could save over $550 a month and over $7,000 a year. Have you thought about what you could spend your money on if you were to give up smoking? And when I'm working with smokers, I encourage them to put their money aside in a jar. So if we just click on the next point, put your money in a jar and say to yourself, this is my travel money, or this is my money because I want to purchase a new pair of shoes, or I want to go on a fishing trip with my mates, or I wish to go to the theatre, golf class, or go to Pink's concert, whatever it might be. There are many other great reasons to stop smoking. It's not only health and wealth, but often smokers do experience this increased confidence, increased self-esteem. Smokers say to me, you know what, now that I've given up, I feel I can tackle any other life challenge. I can tackle any weight gain. I can tackle going for a promotion at work. I can tackle going for a new job interview. I can tackle having this assertive conversation with my partner, with my manager. I feel more confident, I feel more control. Smokers also often tell me when they've given up that they now experience this sense of freedom that they have not experienced before, because they are no longer looking for their cigarettes. They are no longer wondering whether they're going to run out during the night, or or what option is available. Is the milk bar open? Do I need to travel to the local BP to purchase a packet of cigarettes? So they feel this sense of freedom. You'll also be a great role model for your children, for your significant others. We do know that when parents smoke, that increases the likelihood that their children will also start to smoke. However, if you smoke and you say to your kids, I don't want you to smoke, I don't want you to start, I'm addicted and I'm struggling to quit smoking, I've wanted to do it for a long time, it's so hard, don't you dare touch one, you are more likely to make an impact that way. They are less likely to take up cigarettes. But often parents are not having these conversations with their children, and we do know that kids observe and watch us all the time, and often they think, you know what, I want to be like mum, I want to be like dad, I want to be like my aunt, and they will often light up to see what it feels like for them. So there are many, many benefits, not just health, not just financial benefits, but also some great reasons too. Think about your reasons for quitting and put that top of mind to help you move forward with your quit plan. So we've looked at addiction, understanding your smoking behaviour, and planning. So now let's look at some tips and strategies to help you. I want you to remember two key points about quitting. We know from the research that quitting success increases with individual support or group advice and support, and the use of quitting medications. So I want you to think about who is going to support you along your quitting journey. Do you have a colleague that you can turn to? Can you actually speak to your doctor about your quitting? Can you ring the Quitline? Or could you possibly attend a group program or some sort of smoking cessation clinic? We know that if you do, you are more likely to be successful. We also know that if you use the quitting medications, you can double to triple your chance of success. And if you combine the medications with counselling, your success increases even further. So I want you to remember these key points as you move forward with your quit plan. So an important note about quitting before I look at quitting methods and the medications is that I want you to keep in mind that if you're taking any type of medication, whether it's diabetes or heart medication or asthma medication, or if you're experiencing any type of mental health condition, including anxiety or depression, that you do speak to your doctor before you quit or cut down. We know that chemicals in cigarettes do change the way some medications work, so often your medication levels may need adjusting, and this is often a good thing. So when you're giving up, often your medications are reduced, but do check in with your doctor. We also know that for some people, quitting smoking can be stressful. If you are experiencing anxiety or depression, that may exacerbate your symptoms. We do know, however, in the long term, that when you do stop smoking, your anxiety and your depression and your mental health will improve. So please don't use mental health as a reason not to stop smoking. People who do have a mental health condition can quit successfully with the support of a doctor or a psychologist or some other form of professional. So please keep that in mind as you move forward with your quitting plan. So when you are making a plan, it is important to think about how you're going to quit. Will you quit cold turkey? Will you slowly cut down? And we'll look at this in a moment. You need to think about your concerns. What are your challenges? What are your hurdles? Is stress going to be a problem for you? Is boredom an issue for you? Is socializing with your mates over the weekend an issue for you? And how will you deal with these concerns? I also want you to think about strategies, and I'll talk about strategies in a moment, as well as how you're going to reward yourself and who is going to support you. There are a number of quitting methods. The most popular method is to stop smoking cold turkey, but you may also wish to slowly cut down or postpone. If you're not ready, if you're unsure, I encourage you to have a practice day. So practice not smoking for the day, or practice not smoking for a few hours, just so you can see what that's like for you. In terms of dealing with cravings, how long do you think they last? So just quickly type in your answer, A, B, C, or D, in the question box, in the chat box. How long do you think cravings last? Do you think they last for 30 minutes or more? Do you think they last for an hour? How do we go, Stephanie?
Okay. So we've had C come up a few times, A as well.
Great. Yep. As A as well. Okay. Well, the good news is, guys, that those of you who have answered C, it is correct. Cravings do pass within 2 to 5 minutes. Now, for those of you who have answered A, 1 hour or more, you may experience your craving for a longer duration because of the emotional triggers and the habitual triggers. But physiologically, your craving will pass within 2 to 5 minutes. So it's important that you think about what you could do instead to help you cope with those cravings in 2 to 5 minutes. I've got some suggestions on the next slide, so some tips to help you get through. And as well as some tips to help you cope with withdrawal. And I have a handout available for you to take away for future reference. Due to time constraints, I'm not able to elaborate much further on this, but I do encourage you to eat well and keep active. Remind yourself of your reasons for quitting. Cut down on your caffeine, because often you metabolize caffeine and alcohol at a higher rate. So do think about what you're going to do to help you get through your cravings and withdrawal. We know that most smokers will relapse, and often smokers will use a slip-up, a few puffs or a few cigarettes, as a reason to return to full-time smoking. If you do experience a slip-up, learn from this. You haven't failed. Learn from this, put some strategies in place, and start again. Think about high-risk situations and what you will do to help you get through the cravings. So let's have a look at quitting medications. Again, due to time constraints, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on medications. I do encourage you to speak to your doctor or your local pharmacist about the products that are over the counter, so nicotine replacement therapy, and also the prescription medications. With NRT, the patches are available on the pharmaceutical benefits scheme, so they are at a reduced cost, and so are the prescription medications. And as I've highlighted previously, they can double to triple your chance of quitting success. If you do receive some support, this will further increase your chances of success. For NRT to be successful, however, you do need to be nicotine dependent, so you do need to be smoking 10 or more cigarettes per day, smoke within 30 minutes of waking, or have experienced strong cravings and withdrawal in prior quit attempts. It is important that you choose a product that is right for you and you use it correctly for a suitable length of time. Most smokers come off these products quite quickly, and often this is the reason why NRT doesn't work, or they haven't used it for a suitable length of time. The prescription medication Zyban is another option for you. You do need to speak to your doctor, and it may not be suitable for people with mental health conditions, but it is available and it can help you to stop smoking quite successfully. And bupropion, Zyban, and the next one, Champix, which is known as varenicline. The next slide, please, Stephanie. Both products reduce the urge to have a cigarette. Both products you do smoke within the first week or so until the drug kicks in, and both products are available on the PBS. Again, this product is suitable for people with a mental health condition, but you do need to speak to your doctor because there are some other mood and physical changes, and if you do experience any type of mood or physical change, I encourage you to immediately stop the medication and speak to your doctor. Again, due to time constraints, I'm not able to provide you with further details. So just to finish off, I want to look at other products and therapies and then look at quit services. Acupuncture and hypnotherapy, there is not enough strong evidence to recommend these as options to help people stop smoking. Sure, for some people they have worked, but for the majority of smokers they tend not to work. Electronic cigarettes have been out on the market since the year 2000 and they seem to be growing in numbers, but at this stage there is not enough strong evidence to suggest that these products do help people stop smoking, and at this stage they have not been approved by the Therapeutic Goods Administration because they could be releasing an unreliable dose of nicotine that could be containing toxic chemicals or carcinogens, and therefore at this stage they are not considered a safe product. It is up to you whether you take that risk. At the end of the day, yes, it is safer than smoking because you're not inhaling the 7,000 poisons that you would be if you were smoking a cigarette, but there are some risks, including e-cigarettes blowing up in people's faces, e-cigarettes blowing up in people's cars and homes because of being overcharged, because you know they're often battery operated. So just keep in mind that there are risks involved if you wish to use these products. So just to finish off, I do encourage you to call the Quitline. If you do call the Quitline, you can double your chance of quitting success. You can remain anonymous. It is confidential and it is the cost of a local call. And the counsellors can also call you back and provide ongoing support and assistance to support you through your quitting journey. There are a range of websites available which have lots of information to support you. The Quit Coach is an interactive website where you answer a series of questions and then the Quit Coach will email you information according to your stage of change. So it's very tailored and relevant for you. The Quit Now website is a government website which has also free apps to support you through your quitting journey, one for pregnant women, Quit for You, Quit for Two, and one for everyday smoker. And they are both great apps because they not only provide you with tips and ideas, but they send you motivating messages, they showcase how much money you're saving and how much healthier and fitter you're becoming as each day progresses that you haven't smoked a cigarette. And there is a handout available as well on the range of websites. There are some other websites which I also wish to highlight. The Mind Health Connect website is a government website which focuses on providing online support around mental health issues. It has great information online about mental health, and there's also online forums and chat rooms where you can get online and share your story or any concerns. Think Health Wellbeing is the website that is part of my business, part of our business. There's a lot of information online under the blog section, and if you're interested, do come online and register for the newsletter, and every month you'll receive a free copy with with information on a range of health and wellbeing topics. If you're on Facebook, we also have a Facebook page, and if you'd like to hear more about what we do and the information that we share, come in and like our page on Facebook. So to finish up, this is what we've covered today. We've looked at understanding your own smoking behaviour and triggers, looking at the importance of decision making and that internal conflict and planning your quit attempt, and then we finished off by looking at quitting methods, medications, electronic cigarettes, and where to go for further information and support. Of course, I've tried to cram in as much information as I can in a 45-minute webinar. There is so much more that I would love to share with you, and I do run group workshops on site, and whether it's a 2-hour workshop or a 1-day workshop, in these workshops I do allow for greater discussion, I do allow for you to share your story, and I provide you with more detail on the information that I've covered today. Of course, there are also other health and wellbeing topics available, and if you're interested, please don't hesitate to get in touch through our website, thinkhealthwellbeing.com.au. And that is it from me.
That's right. So thank you very much for that, Stav. So if there are any final questions, I'll just bring everyone's attention also, obviously, to the Quit Tasmania local website, has obviously information about quitting smoking. So that's www.quit quittas.org.au. So yes, and any final questions before we do close this morning's webinar? And it seems that was very comprehensive, Stav. So just to end off this morning's webinar, just to again remind people that this session has been recorded. We will progressively be making webinars available on the WorkSafe website after WorkSafe month ends on the 30th of October. Do look out for any other webinars or events during WorkSafe month. And I certainly, on behalf of WorkSafe Tasmania, thank Stav today for presenting today's webinar, You Can Quit, Cut Down, Manage Your Smoking. So thank you very much, Stav, and thank you to everyone as well for joining us, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.